Welcome to Mystic Realms Recap. Links are in the description below. Please show some love of the author and me. On to the show.
After seeing that the number of saints in the sacred land wasn't that many, the champions of the light decided to carry out their mission as soon as possible. One of their members had extraordinary hearing, and he managed to pick up what Draco had said earlier. Since the guardian of the ancestral ground had no intention of protecting their target, they no longer had any reason to hesitate and began their operation. Of course, they also heard that Kiran might help Gop, but that didn't matter. There were 6 of them, and dealing with 2 threats wasn't that big of a deal. The High King of Lunaria even ordered for Kiran to just be contained and not killed. Even though they were not afraid to have an all-out war against Memento Mori, they would still consider this as a last resort. Gop wasn't a member of Memento Mori, so technically, they weren't breaking their agreement. Since the old halfling wasn't part of the notorious Necromancer organization, that also meant that his disciple was not a member of it as well. The High King of Lunaria wanted to end Gop's life first, but understood that their mission took priority. Dodging the attacks of Gop's subordinates, he flew toward the giant skeleton king, aiming for the blood dome in its hands. At that moment, a gigantic palm tried to swat him away, but anticipating this move from Antero, the High King of Lunaria used an artifact that allowed him to use instant teleportation, taking him a good distance away from where he was. Within a span of a few seconds, the High King of Lunaria materialized in front of the dome of blood. The giant skeleton king remained unmoving, as if it wasn't aware of the battle that was happening in front of him. With this, the High King's assumption had been confirmed. I knew it, the High King thought. Whoever is undergoing his breakthrough inside the blood dome is in an unconscious state. As the High King was about to unleash an attack that would destroy the threat in front of him, he felt the wind around him shift ever so slightly, forcing him to back away in haste. A second later, a death scythe slashed the place where the High King was earlier, cutting even the fabric of space. Undertaker, you shouldn't mess with something that has no relation with you, the High King stated as he looked at the black-haired Kiran, who stood between him and the dome of blood. Kiran didn't bother to reply and simply engaged the High King of Lunaria. Just like Gop, he also had a beef to settle with the person that killed Hireswith, the woman whom he treated as an older sister when she was alive. Gop, who saw this from the ground, shifted his attention to the 5 other saints, who were also attempting to attack his unconscious disciple. His 13 named creatures had only managed to block 2 of them using the teamwork that they had honed over the years. All of Gop's named creatures were peak Emprine-ranked world bosses. Although they weren't walking calamities, their strength was something that saints wouldn't be able to handle easily. This was especially true since these 13 monsters were working together. Antero laughed as he dealt with the other saint, who specialized in fighting against giants. Due to Gop's extremely weakened state, he was unable to fully unlock Antero because doing so would kill him in mere minutes. Although he would be able to fend them off during that time, after his death, his disciple would become helpless with no one to protect him. Because of this, he gritted his teeth and did his best to repel the champions of the light. With 4 of the 6 saints taken care of, only 2 remained. However, those 2 had managed to break past Antero's defenses, and were now heading toward the blood dome, where his disciple was sleeping. Ender of lives, kill those who stand before me, the old priest shouted as a flaming tiger appeared above his head. Primal fury, I will put an end to this heresy, the High Templar roared as he raised his sword, making it shine brightly. Destruction slash. The flaming tiger and the slash of destruction flew toward the dome of blood, with the intention of wiping it out completely. Just as their attacks were about to hit the dome, a 10-meter-tall corpse god appeared and used its shield and weapons to protect its master. However, it was not strong enough to resist the attack of 2 saints, making their attacks break past its defenses, hitting the blood dome that it tried to protect. A moment later, a powerful explosion reverberated in the surroundings, making a rain of blood fall from the sky. The Skeleton King remained unmoving as smoke rose from his hand. The High Templar waved his sword and blew away the smoke in front of him. He wanted to see with his own eyes if his attack had connected and killed the evil spawn that had tried to usurp the laws of heaven. The first thing that the old priest and High Templar saw was a pair of black, dragon-like wings spread wide. Then, they saw a red-headed teenager standing on the palm of the Skeleton King with his eyes closed. His clothes were in tatters, but no injuries could be seen on his body. Clearly, the attack of the 2 saints only managed to destroy his clothes, leaving him unscathed by their combined assault. This result didn't deter the 2 saints and only made their desire to kill the red-headed teenager stronger. They knew in their hearts that they must not allow someone like him to live, or else he would become a variable that could destroy the peace that they had sworn to protect. The two saints didn't even need to look at each other as they charged toward the half-elf, with the intention of decapitating him. Die! The High Templar shouted as he swung his sword, intending to end the half-elf's life once and for all. But a second later, he heard a voice that was filled with killing intent, which almost made him stop his attack mid-strike. You wish. Those were the words he heard before something appeared in front of his eyes. A wooden puppet, which was commonly used to train children and young teenagers who wanted to become knights, blocked his path. The High Templar roared in anger as he empowered his weapon with great sharpness, with the intention of cleaving the wooden puppet and the half-elf at the same time. However, something unexpected happened. His sword was stopped by the wooden puppet's fingers, holding it in place and not allowing it to move an inch closer. Trying to kill my grandson in front of me, a beautiful lady with long silver hair said in a cold voice. Since you wish for his death, I'll be taking your life instead. With a flick of her finger, another wooden puppet appeared. This puppet delivered a kick that landed on the side of the High Templar's body, sending him flying away from the half-elf he wanted to kill. The old priest who saw this looked at the lady in front of him. From what he could tell, the person that was getting in their way was a mere high ranker, which was not a cause for concern. However, after seeing how the silver-haired beauty dealt with his companion, the old priest didn't dare to underestimate the new enemy that stood before him. Who are you? The old priest asked as he summoned for fire tigers around him. I am your worst nightmare, Vera replied before spreading her arms wide. The ancestral lands of the Necromancers suddenly shuddered as its power came back to life. Black and purple mists appeared in the surroundings, and all of them flew towards Vera, as if she was absorbing them all. A ranker, SS ranker, saint. Vera's rank rose drastically until she stepped into the realm that was considered to be a true powerhouse in the world. It has been a while since I felt this powerful, Vera stated. This makes me remember the old days. The old priest who was paying close attention to Vera suddenly gasped in shock as a distant memory resurfaced in his mind. Puppet Master Vera. The old priest gasped in shock. How? I thought you were dead. Vera smiled because that was a name that she hadn't heard for a very long time. Long ago, she was also one of the powerhouses in Solais and Elysium. However, to save Alexander, she transferred all of her powers to him, harming her body irrevocably and making her rank regress to that of a C ranker. Originally, she was supposed to remain as a C ranker until her death. However, after Lux placed her inside the black coffin, Black Fire, Vera's body was remodeled to perfection, giving it a new breath of life. Because of this, she decided to take her time in order to regain her previous strength by staying inside Blackfire and being nourished by its nearly limitless power. When Lux stepped into the Necromancer's sacred lands, Vera felt a very strong connection with the Holy Land. When Draco tried to kill her grandson, Vera was enraged and decided to forcefully snatch away the power of the Vampire King and take it for herself. Since Lux's breakthrough weakened the power of the ancestral land, Vera took this opportunity to fully establish her connection with the sacred land. Although it was very close, she managed to succeed at the last minute, allowing her to once again make her appearance in the world. Draco's eyes widened in shock after sensing the familiar feeling that was coming off of Vera's body. The ancestral grounds had recognized her as the new guardian. Draco muttered in disbelief after realizing what had just transpired. Vera gave the Vampire King a sidelong glance, which made the latter shudder. The glance Vera gave him was filled with killing intent, which made the Vampire King feel as if his nearly immortal life was about to come to an end. I'll deal with you later, Vera said before shifting her gaze back to the old priest, who also realized what just happened, making his face turn extremely pale. Vera spread her arms wide, and countless puppets appeared around her. Their numbers were so many that they blocked out the light of the sun, covering the entire Holy Land in darkness. I'll clean up this trash first, Vera declared as all the puppets locked into the body of the old priest, making him regret the fact that he volunteered to go to the Necromancer's ancestral lands, only to meet an untimely death in the hands of the silver-haired beauty, whom he felt would become their organization's worst nightmare. Vera, I acknowledge that you are indeed powerful, the old priest said as he looked at the silver-haired beauty, who commanded countless puppets of different sizes and shapes. However, do you wish to make an enemy of the entire Divine Army of Light by protecting that heretic? Once, I thought that the Divine Army was a righteous organization, Vera replied. But that ended the moment you targeted my grandson. You have grown old and stupid, Renford the Fire Tiger. It is time for you to retire permanently. It was impossible for Vera to not recognize the higher-ups of the Divine Army of Light, for she had also dealt with them in the past. Although they were not enemies, they were not friends either. They manipulated the events from the shadows, using their influence and background to get their way. Kings, emperors, patriarchs, and sovereigns dare not go against them, for fear that they would be prosecuted and hunted down. However, Vera cared about none of these things. Although the divine army of light was truly a force that extended its claws in both Elysium and Solais, with Solaeans being part of their council of light, the silver-haired lady didn't care. Even if she were to make the entire world her enemy, she would not back away if it was to protect her precious family from those who wished to harm them. So be it, Renford stated as his entire body ignited with divine flames. You will regret this decision. The fire tiger of the champions of light transformed into a 30-meter-tall flame tiger with wings. He burned so brightly that he resembled a miniature sun, amidst the darkness that was cast by Vera's countless puppets. No, Vera replied crisply. It is you and the divine army of light who will regret your decision. With a wave of her hand, countless puppets charged toward the flame tiger, who roared defiantly before charging toward Vera with the intention of mutual destruction. Vera sneered as she empowered the puppets with the power of the Necromancer's ancestral lands, raising their attack and defense to unimaginable levels, and imbuing them with unholy might. A pained roar reverberated in the surroundings as the countless puppets punched the charging flame tiger, stopping his advance. A second later, the flame tiger crashed against the ground, creating a crater that was hundreds of meters wide. Seeing this, all the champions of light looked at the silver-haired lady, who was looking down on them all from the sky. Use it, Renford shouted as he propped himself up from the ground. Regardless of the result, use it. The High King of Lunaria gritted his teeth and took out a diamond-shaped artifact that glowed with golden light from his storage ring. The flame tiger had acknowledged that he was unable to defeat Vera using his full powers, so the only thing they could do was use one of their divine artifacts to kill their target. This divine artifact was one of the priceless treasures of the divine army, and while it could only be used once, it was very effective as it would never miss its target. Truth be told, they didn't want to use this, but after careful deliberation, the Sovereign of Light decided to go all out to end the heretic that threatened the order of the world. By the power of the divine, I sentence you to death, the High King of Lunaria shouted as he aimed the diamond at the half-elf, who was standing still in the palms of the giant skeleton king. End his misery, Spear of Longinus. The High King threw the diamond in Lux's direction, where it transformed into a golden spear that trailed toward the sky, leaving golden flames in its wake. Vera immediately manipulated her puppets to block it, forming a barricade that was hundreds of meters thick. However, the Spear of Longinus pierced through it, as if it was a paper wall. Vera summoned a silver blade and flew toward the golden spear in an attempt to deflect it. But when she was about to strike it down, the spear moved to the side, dodging her completely before changing its trajectory to fly in the direction of its target, doubling its flight speed. No, Vera shouted. Dodge it, Lux. As if hearing a familiar voice, Lux stirred and opened his eyes. However, only golden light could be seen, where his eyes should have been. The Spear of Longinus, which was said to be able to kill even Supremes once it was unleashed, flew straight toward the half-elf's chest, with the intention of piercing through his heart. In the span of a few seconds, in which time seemed to move in very slow motion, Vera saw the golden spear pierce her grandson's chest, making her shout in anger. Renford, the High King of Lunaria, as well as the other champions of light, all cheered after seeing this scene, knowing that they had succeeded in their mission, or at least, they thought they did. Fools who know nothing of the world, you prance in this place and act so bold, Hireswith said in a mocking tone, which spread in the surroundings of the ancestral lands. Look closely and beholden, see the error of the paths you have trodden. The golden spear that had collided with Lux's chest burned brightly as it tried to pierce through the half-elf's body. However, no matter what it did, it couldn't even pierce Lux's skin. Impossible, the High King of Lunaria exclaimed. That is the divine Spear of Longinus. Can kill even the Supremes. Yes, Hireswith's voice once again reached Evrion's ears. But do you think the one chosen by the heaven is afraid of divine powers? You must be joking, right? You little d*ck. You messed with the wrong necromancer. The high elf's latest words filled with contempt made the hearts of the champions of light tremble. They still couldn't understand why the power of the divine light, which was the ultimate weakness of all evil things, especially necromancers, couldn't even kill a teenage boy who was not even fully conscious. As the golden spear's radiance intensified, making it look like an unwilling fighter who refused to give up, the half-elf's right hand slowly rose and grabbed its handle. Undead generator, X, Lux said softly. A moment later, a giant skeleton cauldron appeared in front of him. After the skeleton generator, X, skill had been upgraded with Hireswith's help, it had become much stronger and became the skill. Undead generator, X. Please choose an ingredient to use to generate your undead creature. Use this spear, Lux said in a trance-like voice as he casually tossed the spear inside the giant skeleton cauldron. "You have used a consumable divine artifact as an ingredient. Do you wish to proceed?" "Yes, no, yes," Lux answered. To the horror of the champions of light, the giant skeleton cauldron released golden mists as it transmuted their prized artifact in front of their very eyes. Hireswith's maniacal laughter made the ancestral lands tremble as Lux used the skill that they had created together for the first time. "I would like to thank all of you little cunts," Hireswith said in a teasing tone. "Thank you for the gift you have given my grand disciple on this special day." Golden lightning streaked across the heavens and hit the giant skeleton cauldron as the power of the divine artifact was being consumed. This was the first time that Lux had used a divine item as an ingredient for creating a creature, and even Hireswith, who had created the spell, didn't know what kind of being would emerge from it. As a barrage of golden lightning bolts rained down on the giant skeleton cauldron, Vera shifted her gaze to the giant flame tiger, as well as the High King of Lunaria. Although it didn't show on her face, she felt as if it was her heart that had been pierced by the spear of Longinus after it broke past her defenses and attacked her grandson. Not even sparing another thought for the giant skeleton cauldron behind her, Vera once again unleashed a devastating attack on her enemies. This time, she no longer targeted a single individual, she targeted all of them at the same time. The countless puppets under her command moved as one as they relentlessly attacked the flame tiger's body, creating shockwaves with each punch, kick, and slash they made with their fists, legs, and weapons. The High King of Lunaria was also feeling a lot of pressure as the puppets, who seemed to be out for blood, attacked him from every direction, making him struggle with fending them off. Although he was a saint, he could feel his strength gradually decreasing for each minute he stayed in the Necromancer's ancestral grounds. The barrier that protected this holy land was still down due to Lux's breakthrough, but it was slowly regaining its former environment, repelling those who were not practicing the arts of necromancy. "It's no use, let's leave," the High Templar, who had attacked Lux earlier, shouted at his comrades before flying away to escape Vera's grasp. "And what makes you think that you are allowed to leave?" Vera sneered as she created more puppets, enclosing the entire ancestral lands with her unholy might. As if to prove her words to be true, the flame tiger's wings were torn off from its body, making it roar in pain as countless puppets swarmed its body, pinning it to the ground, unable to break free. Vera then clenched her fist tightly, compressing the countless puppets that covered the flame tiger's body. A moment later, fiery blood oozed out of the small crevices between the puppets, signaling that she had successfully crushed her foe, squeezing all life from within. The champions of the light, who witnessed this grim scene, hastily backed away as they did everything in their power to run away from the puppet slaughterhouse that Vera had created to deal with them. Left with no choice, all of them gathered together in order to repel the attacks that were coming from all directions. The 5 remaining champions of light stood back to back with each other, attacking the puppets surrounding them with great ferocity. With each attack, the ancestral grounds of the Necromancers shook, creating cracks in the ground that extended for hundreds of meters. Draco, who saw this, immediately went pale, knowing that the battle could truly destroy the place that he had protected for decades. He then flew towards Vera with the intention of pleading for her to stop. "Your Excellency, Lady Vera, please stop," Draco shouted. "The ancestral grounds will be destroyed if you continue fighting against the Arg." Several puppets slapped the Vampire King, sending him flying away as if he was a nuisance. Kieran, Lorelei, and the other necromancers who saw this winced as they collectively made a vow in their hearts to never offend the silver-haired lady, who would stop at nothing to have her vengeance. Suddenly, the dome of puppets that Vera had created to prevent the champions of light from escaping exploded. A golden flying ship, which had the banner of the divine army, arrived at the battlefield, carrying with it over a dozen saints. "Hurry and come," the Oracle of the Army of Light shouted. After her comrades had left to carry out their mission, she felt a nagging feeling at the back of her head, telling her that something might happen to them. Because of this, she asked the Sovereign of Light for permission to use the Golden Ark, which was the flagship of the Divine Army of Light. She also asked 12 more saints to accompany her to act as reinforcements, just in case something had really gone wrong with her comrades' mission. The Oracle of Light had been using her divination to monitor the battle, and after seeing that one of their comrades had died, she decided that she could no longer stand still, and used the Golden Ark's special ability to travel at great speeds. The Golden Ark was also a divine artifact, which meant that it was an exceptional flying ship. Although it wasn't easy, it managed to break through Vera's slaughterhouse at the most critical moment, giving the 5 champions, who had accepted the mission to kill Lux, a chance to escape. Without even wasting any time, the 5 flew towards the flying ship, while the Oracle of Light as well as the 12 other champions, unleashed a barrage of attacks aimed at Lux, making Vera focus solely on defending him. These attacks came from saints, and their power mustn't be underestimated. Even Vera, who could now fight dozens of saints at once, dared not take any chances and defended with everything she had. She didn't want to see another artifact as strong as the Spear of Longinus pierce through her defenses again. We'll be taking our leave now, but remember this, the Oracle of Light declared. This isn't over. The divine army will not stop until that heretic is destroyed. With those words spoken, she commanded the great ark to fly away, leaving the ancestral grounds of the Necromancers, as well as the corpse of their fallen comrade behind. Vera watched them go with cold eyes, as she hovered above the sky. Right now, her priority was Lux's safety. She would deal with the aftermath once her grandson had successfully managed his breakthrough to become a ranker. Behind her, Lux stared absent-mindedly at the space in front of him, while the giant skeleton cauldron continued to process the divine power of the Spear of Longinus. Because everyone was too focused on the fight that had happened, as well as the departure of the champions of light, they didn't notice that the corner of the giant skeleton king's lips rose ever so slightly. It was as if it was watching an entertaining show, and it found it to its liking. "Mama, miss you Tilda." Eiko happily nuzzled Vera, which made the silver-haired lady smile. "I missed you too, Eiko," Vera replied before turning her head to kiss the baby slime that was perched on her shoulder. After the champions of light left the Necromancer's ancestral grounds, the tension in the surroundings died down. The dome of black miasma once again appeared, protecting the Holy Land from being attacked by those that didn't wield the power of necromancy. Lux, who had been the target of the assault, was once again encased in a blood dome by the giant skeleton king. Above the blood dome was the giant skeleton cauldron, which was still in the process of refining the Spear of Longinus, so it could be used as an ingredient for summoning a creature of unknown potential. The lightning strikes had stopped, and only a golden aura can be seen emanating from the cauldron. No one knew when the refining process would end. However, the anticipation of what kind of creature would come out of it was something that Hireswith, who was inside the world tree, was looking forward to seeing. Vera then gazed at the old halfling, who was currently seated on a bone chair, and was fast asleep. She had seen how Gop tried to avenge Lux when Draco had killed her grandson, as well as protect him when the champions of light sought to end his life. The old man's breathing was very ragged, and in Vera's eyes, Gop was already a spent candle whose flame was about to die out. She wouldn't even be surprised if the halfling drew his last breath any second by now. Lux is lucky to have someone like him, Vera thought in her heart. Still, I am afraid that he might not last until morning comes. Vera had seen how Lux and Gop had met. Although their meeting wasn't that long ago, the old halfling had treated the half-elf as a true disciple, teaching him the ways of necromancy, as well as helping him when he needed it the most. Although Lux's grandma was inside Blackfire, she had seen almost everything that the half-elf had experienced ever since she made her appearance in the Vahan Empire. Most of the time, she was just sleeping, but whenever Lux encountered a dangerous situation, she would wake up from her slumber, ready to help him in his time of need. After looking at the pitiful halfling, Vera then shifted his attention to the Vampire King, who was currently hanging upside down a few meters away from her. "Eiko, why don't you play for a little while, and throw some of your blast bombs at that thing over there?" Vera raised her chin to point in the direction of the Vampire King. Eiko nodded before looking at the Vampire King evilly. Just like Vera, she was also very angry at Draco for trying to kill her papa. Without another word, Eiko jumped off Vera's shoulder and started to toss blast bombs at Draco's body, creating small explosions. Draco, on his part, simply endured the baby slime's payback since her attacks didn't even do much damage to him. Truth be told, it was quite impossible for Eiko to damage a saint's body with her regular blast bombs. However, if she released her tactical nuke, Draco would certainly do his best to break free from the puppets that were holding him in place, knowing that the skeleton bomb was something that had the power to deal serious injuries to him. Several puppets were holding the Vampire King in place, preventing him from escaping. The silver-haired lady was still very annoyed with Draco and even thought of cutting off his head and using it as decoration in her home back in the Wildjard stronghold. However, Hireswith talked to Vera telepathically and asked her to spare the Guardian for what he had done earlier. Although the Vampire King was not aware, he had played a crucial role in Lux's breakthrough. Because of this, Vera agreed to decrease his punishment and no longer thought about killing him. Also, Hireswith told Vera that she could make Draco the Vice Guardian of the Necromancer's Holy Land, since she couldn't be there every time. Since Draco had played this role for many years, there was no better candidate to watch over the place whenever Vera was not around. The silver-haired lady agreed to Hireswith's advice. Truth be told, she had no intention of staying in the Necromancer's ancestral grounds to become its guardian. She still had many things to do and couldn't be bothered to watch over the legacies of the Necromancers of the past. Eiko started to giggle as she threw bombs left and right. This was the first time that someone didn't get damaged by her blast bombs, and she found this a very fun activity. At that exact moment, a black-robed man descended from the skies, riding on a black hawk. Kirin, who saw one of the members of Memento Mori, immediately went to greet his comrade whom he hadn't seen for nearly 2 years. "It is me, Kirin." Dylan removed the hood covering his face. "I came here to help protect Gop's disciple, but it seems that my aid is no longer needed." Dylan arrived a few minutes after Vera fought against the Champions of Light. However, when he saw that the silver-haired lady could single-handedly handle the trespasser, he decided to just watch and see what she was capable of doing. He had heard the name of Puppet Master Vera in the past, but he never had the opportunity to see her in action. Because of this, he watched the battle from a safe distance and was shocked when he discovered that she had become the new guardian of their holy land. "I greet you, Puppet Master Vera," Dylan said as he gave Vera a brief nod of acknowledgement. "I heard many things about you in the past when you were still active in Elysium. I thought you had already retired to the countryside since I no longer hear about your exploits." "And you are." Vera arched an eyebrow as she looked at the dwarf who was wearing black robes. "Just call me Dylan," Dylan replied. "I am no one praiseworthy, just an ordinary necromancer." The dwarf necromancer smiled, which made Vera shrug. The only necromancers she cared about were her grandson and Gop, who was currently sleeping due to exhaustion. Kirin, who knew what Dylan was truly capable of, only shook his head helplessly. "By the way, Dylan, did you succeed?" Kirin asked in a low tone. Dylan replied. "I managed to get one of the calamities." A faint smile appeared on Kirin's face, because this boded well for their necromantic organization. "Then, is it only a matter of time before the others succeed as well?" Kirin inquired, forced to go into hibernation to recover. "Since then, their leader ordered a few of his most capable." "I don't know," Dylan answered. "However, I have every reason to believe that they are also about to accomplish their mission soon." The dwarf smiled evilly. It had been many years since they fought tooth and nail with the Divine Army of Light, after Hireswith was killed. Their supreme necromancer had received serious injuries, and was forced to go into hibernation to recover. Since then, their leader ordered a few of his most capable subordinates to look for the calamities that were sealed across Elysium. By obtaining them, they would gain a force that rivaled that of a supreme, a force that they would one day use for the sake of all the living things in the world, and those that were buried beneath the earth, waiting for the day that they would rise up to the surface once again. "That is everything that happened," the High King of Lunaria said after finishing his report to the Sovereign of the Divine Army. "If not for our Oracle's timely rescue, I and the others would have followed Flame Tiger's fate." A sigh escaped the lips of the leader of the Champions of Light, after learning that one of their oldest members had died in battle. "All of you did well in coming back alive," the Sovereign of Light said. "Oracle, you have done our organization a great service. If not for your foresight, we might have lost more of our people today, which would have made our enemies very happy." The Oracle smiled bitterly before nodding her head. If she had only acted sooner, perhaps the old priest would not have died. However, what was done, and there was nothing more she could do about it. "Vera the Puppet Master, truly a fearsome foe," the Sovereign of Light stated. "If I remember correctly, not only can she control puppets, but she can control people as well if she willed it, correct?" The High King of Lunaria nodded. "Anyone below the rank of Saint can be manipulated just like one of Sovereign of Light," asked the Solaians, who had been his members for many years. "Her puppets," the High King replied. "Also, she is a foreigner, which makes her movements unpredictable." The Sovereign of Light shifted his gaze to the other members of his council, who were also from Solais. "Do you know where she can be found in your home world?" the Sovereign of Light asked the Solaians, who had been his members for many years. "I'm not entirely sure where she lives, but if I have to make a guess, it is in the eastern regions of our world," a middle-aged man replied. "I will make inquiries when I get back." "But how should we handle this matter?" The Sovereign of Light pondered for a bit as he decided what kind of action they would take against the Puppet Master, whom they had offended. "For now, gather every piece of information that you can get about her," the Sovereign of Light replied after a time. "Her location, family, friends, and those that are important to her must be investigated. Only when we have a full grasp of the situation will we decide what we will do next." The middle-aged man nodded in agreement. Someone as powerful as Vera shouldn't be taken lightly. So, until they were sure that they had a grasp of all the information about her, they wouldn't dare to make any move that would further antagonize her. So, did any of you who went see Hireswith, the Sovereign of Light asked the High King of Lunaria, the Oracle, as well as the other champions, who went to Necromancer's ancestral lands, all shook their heads. Although we didn't see her, we have heard her, the High King of Lunaria replied. Her profanities are just as vulgar as when she was still alive. There is no doubt about it. Hireswith exists in some sort of form. As to what form she currently had, I cannot say. The Sovereign of Light nodded his head in understanding. So, we have the Puppet Master, as well as Hireswith to consider. The Sovereign of Light smiled. What about Memento Mori? Did any of you fight their members? The High King of Lunaria nodded. I fought against the Undertaker. But we didn't fight for real. We just fended off each other's attacks. I could tell that Kieran was holding back, and didn't want to go all out against us. Maybe he just acted out of the debt he owes Hireswith. The Sovereign of Light closed his eyes before resting his chin at the back of his hands. Although the two of you faced off, it wasn't a real battle, the Sovereign of Light. Can I assume that we didn't violate our side of the agreement? As far as how the events transpired, I can say that we have not. The High Templar, who had also been with the old priest, and the High King of Lunaria, replied. Although we did trespass in the ancestral grounds of the Necromancer, we didn't break our agreement with Memento Mori. Good. The Sovereign of Light nodded. Although we are not afraid of them, now is not the time to go on a war against them. The Apostles of Light are still not ready to make their appearance in the world. They must be kept hidden for as long as we can. Everyone in the room nodded their heads simultaneously, for this was the great undertaking that the divine army was making in the shadows. Have you discerned his name, Oracle? The Sovereign asked. Do we now know the name of the heretic that dares to defy the laws of heaven? The Oracle wrote something in the air with her fingers, which later transformed into golden words that hovered above her head. Lux von Xer. That was the name that the Oracle of Light had written for everyone to see. Lux von Xer, the High King of Lunaria said softly. Should we inform our people and spread this news across the land? Let them know the name of the heretic who goes against the will of heaven. Yes, the Sovereign of Light said. Let the entire world know his name, so that every village, town, and city under our control can keep an eye out for him. If any news of him is heard, we will move to confirm it. We must nip him in the bud before it's too late. By your will, our Sovereign. On that day, news of the identity of the Necromancer of Heaven started to spread in the territories controlled by the Divine Army of Light. They even declared that anyone who could give them news about the half-elf's whereabouts would be handsomely rewarded by the Divine Army of Light. Although not as effective as the world announcement that happened when Lux started to undertake his breakthrough, the influence of the Divine Army was nothing to scoff at. Weeks later, this news would arrive in the territories controlled by the Skystead Alliance, Zinner War Pact, and the Six Kingdoms. As to how these factions would react to this news, only their kings and emperors could decide on what to do with the half-elf, who had already become a rancor by then. While everyone was waiting for Lux to break out of the Blood Dome, little did they know, his soul was actually not in Elysium. Before the Champions of Light had even raided the Necromancer's ancestral lands to kill him, the half-elf's soul was already in the celestial realm. In fact, he was currently seated on a chair, facing several gods, who were debating the restrictions that must be imposed on him. You all, how about we just give him all the good things, and get this over with? Max, who was Lux's patron god, said in a casual manner. You guys aren't even in Elysium, so why are you getting in the way of his breakthrough? Max, you know we can't do that. The goddess, whose name was Nemesis, replied in an annoyed tone. Just like the two girls who represent extreme luck and extreme misfortune, a balance between things is necessary to maintain equilibrium in the multiverse. Nemesis dealt with everything equally and governed over the excess happiness and sadness in the multiverse. Lux had become a unique progenitor, which was something that even the heavens had to pay attention to. There had been no instances where a necromancer had wielded the power of the divine, and because of this, they all decided to have a meeting in order to determine Lux's abilities, so that they wouldn't break the boundaries that could destroy the balance between Solais and Elysium. Max sighed before glancing to the side where several gods were lined up, forming the High Council that would decide Lux's fate. There were three major gods that needed to approve Lux's progenitor class in order for him to have a successful breakthrough. The first one was none other than Nemesis, the goddess that presided over the meeting. The second one was the god of death, Thanatos, who currently had an annoyed look on his face. Lux found the god of death intimidating at first, but this impression didn't last long. It was simply impossible to be intimidated by Thanatos at the moment. The reason: there was an adorable girl seated on his lap, who seemed to be around 5 to 6 years of age. Similar to Lux, this girl had red hair. However, her eyes were blue, and she looked extremely cute. making the god of death's intimidation null and void. Last but not the least was the Jade Emperor, who was one of the gods that presided over the celestial realm. This trio made up the gods that were currently looking at Lux's stats and checking which parts would need balancing. Of course, there were other gods present as well, including the god of necromancers and the god of games, Ariel. Everyone, please take a good look at this boy's status page, Nemesis said as she waved her hand, creating a projection for everyone to see. Name, ManhwaRecap. Age, 17. Race, half-elf. Profession, Heaven's Necromancer. Rank, and decided health, 1,439,600, 1,439,600. Mana, 3,309,600, 3,309,600. Strength, 7,828. Intelligence, 11,032. Vitality, 6,748. Agility, 6,828. Dexterity, 6,828. Unique title, Heaven's Necromancer. Unique skills, Summon Tombstone, Epic. Summon Flesh Golems, Epic. Decay, Epic. Summon Plague Deathworm, Epic. Venomous Plague, Epic. Death Ward, Epic. Death Pulse, Epic. Heaven's Necromancer, all things are equal in death. Let this be a sign. But do not hold thy breath, that necromancy can't be divine. Since this is a progenitor class, all of ManhwaRecap's stats will increase by 400%. All named creatures and members of ManhwaRecap's covenant will have their stats increased by 200%. These stats cannot be lowered by any kind of debuff. 400% increase in physical and magical attacks. 400% increase in physical and magical defense. Completely immune to divine, light, holy, and necromantic spells up to the divine rank. Immune to all status debuffs, and similar spells up to the epic rank. As you can see, his stats have exceeded the normal stats of an E ranker, which is the entry point for rankers after breaking through the initiate rank, Nemesis explained. Most low rankers start with 10,000 combined stat points, yet he has exceeded them by leaps and bounds. He also has the skill Death God's Aura, X, which gives a 100% increase in attack and defense, raising his attack power to 500%, making him the strongest low ranker in Elysium. The god of necromancers chuckled before making his opinion known. The reason why progenitors are called progenitors is due to the fact that they have started a new path, the god of necromancers stated. Because of this, it is perfectly normal for them to become more powerful than their peers, even with those of the same rank. I don't see anything wrong with this setup. The god of necromancers gave Lux a devilish smile, which made the half-elf give the god two thumbs up in his heart. Uncle, they are only of the same race, Harriet. They are not relatives, Thanatos replied. Clearly, they were on the same side, and the other party was trying to help Lux keep all of the powers that had been bestowed upon him. You have a point, Nemesis replied after half a minute. Progenitors indeed have these perks given to them. Do you have any objections, Thanatos? Before the god of death could even reply, the little girl on his lap spoke up. Grandpa, is he my papa's brother? The adorable girl asked innocently. Is he my uncle? They are only of the same race, Harriet. They are not relatives, Thanatos replied. Compared to your father, William, this guy is just a fledgling. I see, Harriet replied. Grandpa, I don't really understand. But don't be mean to him, okay? Okay, Thanatos said in a gentle manner, as he lightly patted his granddaughter's head. He then shifted his attention to the half-elf, and spoke his opinion as well. Although there is no precedent, there is a first time for everything, Thanatos stated. I don't have any objections regarding this matter. The boy can keep the world's blessing, and all the benefits that come along with it. Nemesis rolled her eyes at the god of death, who had turned a doting grandfather ever since his daughter, Renice, had given birth to his granddaughter. Since he was the god that presided over the dead, his vote had almost guaranteed that Lux could keep the blessings that were given to him by the world of Elysium. The goddess then shifted her gaze to the last god, who still hadn't made his opinion known. The Jade Emperor eyed the half-elf with a narrow gaze, making Lux's heart tremble. Originally, I would have opposed this boy from getting so many blessings from the world, the Jade Emperor said. However, this half-elf has shown compassion to my subordinates in the past, and it has left a lasting impression on me. Since that is the case, I have no objections to this boy getting the things he got from his profession. However, there is one thing I'd like to propose. The Jade Emperor then waved his hand, and a spinning wheel appeared in front of Lux. Everything must have a weakness, the Jade Emperor stated. There can't be any absolutes in the world. So, let his fate decide what his weakness will be. Boy, Spin the wheel of fate. Wherever it stops, that will be your one sole weakness. Do you find this agreement fair? Lux, who had remained quiet ever since the meeting started, nodded his head. Truth be told, although having a weakness was something he didn't want to happen, he had a feeling that the Jade Emperor had already made a compromise. Since that was the case, he agreed to spin the wheel of fate and see what kind of weakness fate had prepared just for him. Lux took a deep breath before spinning the wheel of fate. He had used all of his strength to spin the wheel with everything he had, hoping that it would give him a weakness that wasn't too detrimental to him. Even Max and Ariel, who were always on Lux's side, had worried looks on their faces as they, too, looked at the wheel of fate, which was starting to slow down. Finally, half a minute later, the wheel stopped and the marker pointed at something, which made the corner of the Jade Emperor's lips twitch. Lux von Xer's weakness. Donald Trump. Make America great again. I think the wheel is a bit faulty, the Jade Emperor said with a stiff smile. Why don't you spin it again? Consider that first one a trial. Don't worry, this one is not counted. Max and Ariel, who were seated in the peanut gallery, booed, but the Jade Emperor paid them no mind. Even Nemesis thought that the wheel of fate was broken, so she didn't oppose the Jade Emperor's suggestion. Lux, who had no idea who Donald Trump was, just nodded his head and spun the wheel a second time. If even the Jade Emperor felt that this weakness was too much, he thought that it was for his own good that he gave the wheel another chance. A minute later, the wheel of fate stopped spinning, and the marker stopped at a different weakness. This weakness, however, made everyone, including Max and Ariel, speechless. Lux von Xer's weakness, women's thighs. And here I thought the author wasn't going to create another harem as large as William's. Kekekekek. What in the sun Jin Woo? The Necromancer god muttered after a full minute had passed. Lux's face had become beet red after seeing his one sole weakness in the entire world. He didn't know if this weakness was a good or bad thing, but he had every intention of testing it when he reunited with Iris and Sai after his rancor breakthrough had ended. Nemesis rubbed her forehead after seeing the weakness that Lux currently had. Since the wheel of fate had already been spun twice, it would be too much to ask for it to be spun a third time. Since fate has already made its decree, we recognize the blessings that you receive from the world of Elysium, Nemesis said. Congratulations, Lux von Xer. Your breakthrough to become a Heaven's Necromancer has been approved. I will now send you back to Elysium so that your breakthrough will finally be completed. The goddess then looked at the half-elf, with a resigned smile on her face. Any last words before I send you back? Nemesis asked. Just one thing, Lux replied. Who is Donald Trump? The goddess Nemesis smiled sweetly before waving her hand. She didn't even bother to answer Lux's question, and sent him back directly to Elysium, where he would undergo his breakthrough. You did the right thing, Max stated. He doesn't need to know. I know, right? Nemesis said coolly. Thank you, everyone, for taking your time to be here. You can now return to your duties. Thanatos, who was more than happy to leave so he could take his granddaughter to a theme park, instantly disappeared without a trace. He could only spend 4 days of every month with her, so he wanted to make every minute count. The Jade Emperor also left because there were many concerns that he still needed to attend to in heaven. Watch over that child for me, the Necromancer god said to Max and Ariel. I am very curious about what kind of path he will pave for the next generation of Necromancers. That is all we can do, Max replied. Watch and see what kind of trouble he will create as he lives his life to the fullest. The god of Necromancers chuckled before disappearing into a cloud of black smoke. As the god worshipped by all Necromancers, he was looking forward to Lux's progress in the world of Elysium, Necromancer's ancestral lands. The loud tolling of a bell reverberated across the land as the dome of blood in the Skeleton King's hand started to glow in a golden light. Hireswith, who was inside the world tree, clapped her hands happily, knowing that Lux had finally started to formally surpass the initiate rank and become a rancor. A voice, which could only be described as angelic, made an announcement, reaching every corner of Solais and Elysium, informing them of the grand event that was happening in a place where their eyes couldn't see. As darkness knocks on heaven's doors, the chosen one shall rise over darkened skies. Light and dark both intertwine, thus are the makings of the divine. A golden gate appeared above the Skeleton King's head. It then slowly opened, making all Necromancers within the premise of the Holy Land subconsciously shudder. The gate emanated powerful divine energy, which made them feel as if they were about to be purified until their bodies turned to ashes. Fortunately, their greatest fears didn't come to pass, and they watched in awe as golden light poured from the gate, and spun around the dome of blood, making its glow intensify. For some reason, some of these golden lights flew towards Gop, who had woken up after sensing that a great change was happening in his surroundings. Kieran was horrified after seeing this scene because he thought that the old halfling would burst into flames and die due to the pureness of the divine energy that had fallen on his body. Truth be told, Gop didn't feel any fear when he was bathed with golden light, for at that exact moment, the old halfling felt a gentle, warm hand cupping his face. 23:32. Gop forcefully opened his eyes, and saw the beautiful high elf, whom he thought his duty had already ended since Lux had become a ranker. Although he had many regrets in life, including the part of failing to avenge his master, the old halfling knew that he had done his best. "Forgive me, master," Gop thought as he slowly closed his eyes. "I was unable to avenge you." At that exact moment, the old halfling felt a gentle, warm hand cupping his face. Gop forcefully opened his eyes, and saw the beautiful high elf, whom he thought about for almost every day of his life. "Master, have you come to pick me up?" Gop asked as tears streamed down the side of his face. "I miss you so much, master. I'm sorry. I was too weak to avenge you." The old halfling, who had never shown any weakness, even in the face of saints, cried of the Skeleton King, which had started to form cracks on its surface. "I will watch over him, and ensure that he doesn't commit the same mistakes we made in the past." In front of the woman, whom he treasured the most in his life, Hireswith looked fondly at her dear disciple, who had suffered for many years after her death. "There will be a time and place for me to do that, my dear disciple," Hireswith said affectionately. "But today is not that day." Hireswith's tone was so gentle and kind, that if Lux were here, he would definitely think that she was an impostor, especially after being drowned from the shower of profane words and spittle that he had to deal with during his training with her. "What do you mean, master?" Gop asked in confusion. "It means that your role is still not over in this world," Hireswith replied. "You still need to play your part, and ensure that your disciple, my grand disciple, will not commit the same mistakes we made in the past." She then kissed Gop's forehead, making the halfling's body glow brightly. Soon, Lux's master felt something warm and profound wash over his body. Gop didn't know that his white hair had started to turn gray, and the wrinkles on his face disappeared one by one. Lux had imparted the excess world blessing to his master, allowing Gop to regain a bit of his youth and several years of his life. A moment later, the golden light disappeared, and a handsome halfling with gray hair emerged from its aftermath. "Look after him for me, Gop, until our next reunion. By then, I pray that you will no longer have any regrets in life. Until then, stay strong, and live life to the fullest." Here its faint voice reached the halfling's ears, making him turn his head towards the world tree. "Yes, master," Gop replied before shifting his gaze to the golden dome, on the hands of the Skeleton King, which had started to form cracks on its surface. "I will watch over him, and ensure that he doesn't commit the same mistakes we made in the past." As if waiting for that moment, the sound of thousands of crystal vases breaking spread in the surroundings as the golden dome exploded, showering the entire ancestral lands with golden light. Lux's breakthrough had finally ended, and with it, a new era began anew. Lux slowly opened his eyes, slowly regaining his senses. He could feel great power coursing through his body, a sensation he had never felt before, making him sigh due to how pleasant it felt. The half-elf was supposed to only become an E-ranker, but due to his profession, which triggered an otherworldly phenomenon, all of his stats were raised to unprecedented levels. Right now, Lux had the strength of a D-ranker, which allowed him to jump to the next stage after his breakthrough. However, just as soon as he was about to check his soul book, a series of notifications flashed in front of his eyes, which gave him a pleasant surprise. "The requirements for the evolution of your named creatures have been met. Their evolution will now begin. Diablo, Ishtar, Pazuzu, Orion, Asmodeus, Lazarus, and Draven all materialized in front of Lux. These were the named creatures that were not part of his covenant, but the majority of them had accompanied the half-elf, since he was just a beginner. Unlike the members of his covenant, who were already powerful, Diablo and the others had yet to reach their full potential. But now that Lux had become a ranker, they could now undergo their next breakthrough. This would grant them the power they rightfully deserved as their master's swords and shields, which they would use against those who wished to harm their master. A minute later, the golden threads that were wrapped around the bodies of his subordinates ripped apart, revealing new and more powerful forms. At this exact moment, several rows of text appeared in front of the half-elf, telling him that his subordinates had successfully completed their evolution. "Since you have granted them their names, so will you grant your progenitor powers upon them as well. The stats of your named creatures, with the exception of the members of your covenant, will now have the same number of combined stat points that you do. Congratulations! Your firstborn, Diablo, has evolved into Death Sovereign. Congratulations! Your secondborn, Ishtar, has evolved into War Goddess. Congratulations! Your third-born, Pazuzu, has evolved to Divine Guardian. Congratulations! Your fourth-born, Orion, has evolved into Ancient Adamantine Golem. Congratulations! Your fifth-born, Asmodeus, has evolved into Lich King. Congratulations! Your sixth-born, Lazarus, has evolved into Ancient Flame Skull. Congratulations! Your seventh-born, Draven, has evolved into Shadow Sovereign. While they were still hovering in the air, all of them knelt in front of Lux, paying their homage to their lord and master. A moment later, several beams of light landed beside his 7 subordinates, showing the members of his covenant, including General Garrett, who was supposed to help manage the building process of Lux Town in the outer reaches. Something had called out to him from the horizon, so he answered its call. The next moment, he found himself staring at Lux, whose aura was that of a rancor. With a single glance, Garrett quickly figured that Lux had managed to successfully become a rancor. However, he also felt that the half-elf was far stronger than the other low rankors that he had seen in the past. This made him wonder what kind of blessings he received from the world. Bidivir, who was the first member of Lux's covenant, looked at his liege with a smile on his face before kneeling to pay his respect to his lord and master. Garrett, Sagan, Revan, All Might, and King Leoric did the same, placing their right fists over their chest as a gesture to honor the person that they all served. We of your legion swore to protect you. While we live, none shall defeat you. Lux gave his named creatures and members of his covenant a nod of acknowledgement, before making a gesture for all of them to stand. Rise, brave men and women of my legion, Lux said. Going forward, I feel that we will be facing greater challenges than we've ever faced in the past. Stronger opponents who will definitely push us to our limits. For the sake of my mission, I ask that all of you continue to stand by my side. Swords may break, and shields may shatter, but no matter what happens, I know that your resolve and determination will never waver. No words need to be spoken between us all, for what we strive for is one for all. Lux smiled, for he knew that, wherever he went, his trusted subordinates would always be there for him. Just as he thought that everything had calmed down, several rows of text appeared in front of him again, making him wonder if the world had decided to give him the greatest blessing ever. Your special body constitution, Immortal Dragon Conqueror's legacy has received to rank upgrades. Raising its rating to C+. Conquest is not all about claiming lands and expanding your domain. True conquest is conquering the hearts of people. Once you gain their loyalty, the path to dominion will open its doors for you. Your health and mana will increase by 1 million points. You can now use the epic skill, Dragon King's Wrath 3x a day. Dragon King's Wrath unleash a spiritual attack that can target a single individual or anyone within a 1,000-meter range of Luxvonkser. If the target's rank is equal or lower than Luxvonkser, they will suffer from intimidation and fear debuff, lowering their attack, defense, movement speed, and attack speed by 80%. The target will also be unable to cast any kind of offensive or defensive spell while under the Dragon King's Wrath. All attacks done by Luxvonkser, as well as his subordinates, will deal 100% increased damage to anyone affected by Dragon King's Wrath. If the target is 1 or 2 ranks higher than Luxvonkser, their attack, defense, movement speed, and attack speed will decrease by 50%. All attacks done by Luxvonkser and his subordinates will deal 50% increased damage to anyone affected by Dragon King's Wrath. This skill will have no effect on anyone that is 3 or more ranks higher than Luxvonkser. Note: Destiny's Pawn has now become a true king. Your skeleton gangbangers will now evolve into Doom Knight gangbangers. Your skeleton arcane archers will now evolve into Night Stalkers. Your steel golems will now evolve into Jade golems. Your liches will now evolve into Lich Revenants. The blessings of the world has officially ended. After reading the last row of text that appeared in front of him, Lux felt as if he could single-handedly clear the previous missions in the sacred dungeon on his own. With the army under his command, it would be very easy for him to overcome any enemy army unless they had dozens of high rankers, or a saint among their ranks. Lorelei, who was observing Lux and his subordinates with a solemn gaze, finally understood that the half-elf hadn't fought her using his full power. Deep inside, she felt both frustrated and relieved because her opponent didn't take her too seriously when they were engaged in a duel. However, there was only one problem. Their duel had ended before a winner could be decided. But Lorelei knew that if Draco hadn't interfered in their battle so that he could kill Lux, the winner of their duel would have definitely been the half-elf, who seemed to have become more charming and handsome after finishing his breakthrough. I don't want to pad the entire chapter with skill descriptions to increase the word count. I will just use author notes to give the information about his new skills in the next chapters. If I forget, kindly remind me. You guys know that I can be forgetful at times. Kekik. Also, I made an auxiliary chapter, so you guys can view the rankings for mortals and monsters. If you want me to add more information in the auxiliary chapter, just leave a comment, and I will add it if it is related to the story. Grandma, it's good to see you again. Lux gave Vera a tight hug, and the latter hugged him back just as tight, not wanting to miss out. Eiko also joined the group hug, leaving her target dummy, Draco, behind. I was getting worried that your recovery would take forever, Lux said after their hug ended. But I didn't expect that you would jump to the Saint rank after you left Blackfire. I wonder how Father and Iris will react once they see you again. Vera smiled because this was something that she was looking forward to seeing as well. Her body had been remodeled to perfection, allowing her to become stronger than she was decades ago. Also, she became a lot younger, looking like a beautiful lady in her late 20s. Lux then shifted his attention to his master, Gop. Just like Vera, the halfling had also regained many years of his life. He now had gray hair, and the wrinkles on his face were gone. The half-elf didn't expect that Gop had been quite handsome when he was younger, since it was previously hidden by the wrinkles on his face when Lux met him. Seeing his gaze, Gop gave him a nod and a smile, informing the red-headed teenager that everything was fine with him. In fact, Gop never felt so good in his life. The blessings of the world that Lux had imparted with him also fixed his old aches and pains that constantly made him suffer. Gop's subordinates were also present and gave Lux gazes of gratefulness and approval. For them, what the half-elf did for their master was something that couldn't be repaid by all the money in the world combined. Draco, who was still hanging upside down, looked at the half-elf with anxiety. He wasn't afraid of Lux. In fact, he could kill him with just a flick of his finger. However, the silver-haired lady, who was by his side, could also do the same to him, so the Vampire King could only behave and endure the punishment that was about to befall him. Grandma, you can let Draco go now, Lux stated. Although it was totally unexpected, he did help with my breakthrough. Vera nodded and waved her hand, causing the Vampire King to hit the ground face first. But this amount of damage was nothing to him. Even Aiko's blast bombs didn't leave a single scratch on his body. However, the emotional damage he received within this period was something beyond any physical damage he received in his lifetime. The handsome half-elf then shifted his gaze to Lorelei, who was also looking back at him. I'm sorry that our duel came to an unexpected end, Lux said with a smile. How about a round two? The corner of Lorelei's lips twitched after hearing Lux's words. There's no need to fight again, Lorelei replied. I accept defeat. It is my loss. I will honor the agreement, but you are not allowed to do anything perverted to me. If you do that, I will go all out to fight you. Relax. I'm not brave enough to do that, Lux replied. Besides, Grandmaster Hireswith will nag at me for a lifetime if I did something bad to her niece. The half-elf smiled at the high elf, who resembled his grandmaster's beauty. Clearly, they were related by blood, so the half-elf didn't dare to do anything perverted to her. How about this? I won't order you to do anything now, but you will do me a favor in the future, Lux stated. Is this acceptable? As long as the order does not violate my bottom line, I will do it to the best of my ability. Lorelei nodded. You have my thanks, Lux Vonxer. I didn't expect any less from my aunt's grand disciple. Gop, on the other hand, looked at Kieran with a devilish smile on his face, making the latter shudder uncontrollably. The black-haired saint had completely forgotten that it was not only their disciples who had a deal. As masters, they were part of the agreement as well. Don't worry, I will follow my disciples' footsteps, and simply ask you for a favor in the future, Gop stated. You also helped protect him earlier, so I am willing to compromise. However, it will only be this one time. Kieran nodded. It's good to know that you still understand proper etiquette. Gop scoffed at the saint whom he hadn't gotten along with even when his master was still alive. Even so, he did appreciate Kieran's effort to shield Lux from harm, so he decided to just settle for a favor. Vera then walked towards Draco, making the Vampire King subconsciously take a step back. Don't worry, I won't hurt you anymore, Vera said. I just want to talk about the guardianship of the Necromancer's ancestral lands. I don't plan on staying here. After all, there are still many things I have to do in Solais. With that, I decided to return the guardianship of this place to you. Why you will return the guardianship to me? Draco asked. Are you sure? Vera nodded. I am not a necromancer, so this place doesn't have any attachments to me. Even so, since I am now its guardian, I have the power to bestow its guardianship to another. But remember this, I can take this power away from you, with just a thought. Make sure to not antagonize my grandson again in the future, okay? Draco patted his chest and smiled at the silver-haired lady, who had decided to give him a second chance. What are your plans now? Lorelei asked Lux, who had casually tossed his tattered clothes to the 23 o'clock. sighed and replaced them with another set, making him look more presentable in her eyes. "Don't worry, Lady Vera," Draco said with confidence. "Past is past. I swear on my name that I will no longer do anything to antagonize your grandson from this point onward." "I pray that you keep your oath dear to your heart," Vera replied. "I still don't have a vampire in my puppet collection." Vera left her words hanging, but it was enough for Draco to understand the meaning behind it. As a puppet master, Vera didn't only command wooden puppets. She commanded an assortment of puppets ranging from humans, monsters, and other demi-humans, which she had collected when she was in her prime decades ago. "What are your plans now?" Lorelei asked Lux, who had casually tossed his tattered clothes to the side and replaced them with another set, making him look more presentable in her eyes. "I'm going back to Solais to have a family reunion," Lux answered before looking at his grandma Vera. "It has been a while since all of us were together." Lorelei nodded before handing Lux an emblem. "This is our family's coat of arms," Lorelei explained. "If you ever visit the High Elf Kingdom of Isborfridden to look for me, you can use that emblem to grant you special access to the city. But be informed, High Elves don't usually have high impressions of half-elves. There is a chance that people will look down on you when you arrive at that place." "Isborfridden," Lux muttered. He had received a key that would allow him to teleport to the ancient city of the High Elf, but it had a special restriction attached to it. In order to activate this key, he would need to be a ranker first. Now that Lux was a ranker, he could visit the city of the High Elves any time he wanted. As for being discriminated against, he didn't give a hoot about it. For him, there was no difference between elves and high elves. He didn't mind, and they didn't matter. But he set this thought aside for now. There was a place that he wanted to go to first and someone he wanted to meet. For that to happen, he would have to travel thousands of meters underground in order to reach the legendary city of Agartha, home to the people who lived near the core of the world, and the place where a lonely girl was trapped in eternal darkness. Lux opened his soul book in order to double-check that he hadn't missed any information about the blessings he received from the world. Earlier, there were so many rows of text that appeared in front of him that he felt like he hadn't been able to read all of them properly. As if to prove that his guess was correct, he immediately noticed that his two other summons had also received an upgrade. His plague-winged gargoyles had evolved into doomsday gargoyles, and his elite spirit protectors had evolved into fortress defenders. Aside from those upgrades, he also noticed that Eiko also received an epic skill called Fairy Princess Transformation, Epic. Also, all of her combined stats were the same as his, making the baby slime as strong as Lux's other named creatures, who were now all Argonaut-ranked monsters. Curious about what this new ability could do, Lux checked its information to see how good this epic skill was. Fairy Princess Transformation, Epic, allows Eiko to transform into a demi-human fairy princess. This power allows her to make any slime-type monster below the calamity rank favor her, and help her during her time of need. Grants Eiko 2,000,000 health and mana points, after transforming into her fairy princess form. All of Eiko's named creatures will temporarily gain the same combined stat points as her when she is in this form. All slimes, as well as any creature, under Eiko's command will temporarily gain a buff that would increase their physical and magical attacks by 200%. All slimes, as well as any creature, under Eiko's command will temporarily gain a buff that will increase their physical and magical defense by 200%. In her fairy princess form, Eiko can create 5 clones of herself, which also have the same stats and skill set as her. These clones, however, are unable to summon Eiko's named creatures. Eiko will gain the ability to summon a giant slime of any element of her choosing, 5 meters tall. The rank of this giant slime will always have the same rank as the fairy princess, and will be summoned as a world boss monster. Right now, Eiko can summon an Argonaut-ranked world boss after using her fairy princess transformation. This skill can only be used when Eiko is facing an opponent that is of the same rank or any creature that is stronger than her. I wonder if Astra will win in his next rematch against Eiko. Lux could only scratch his head after seeing how strong his baby slime had become. I'm sure that Iris will be surprised after seeing how strong Eiko is right now. Eiko and Astra had a rivalry against each other, and every time they fought, it had always been the unicorn who had won their battle. But right now, Lux didn't know if the unicorn would be able to beat his baby slime, who had now become an Argonaut-ranked monster. Aside from the restriction of the skill, I can say with certainty that this is going to be her trump card, Lux mused. The half-elf was very happy that his baby slime had also become very strong. Eiko had been with him since he was in Leaf Village, and they shared a very special connection with each other. Perhaps, she was the only baby slime in the world who had managed to reach this rank in a short period of time. Suddenly, Lux sensed something, which made him look up at the giant skeleton cauldron that was hovering in the sky. Faint ripples of divine energy pulsed from the giant cauldron as it slowly descended to the ground, landing a few meters in front of Lux. Half a minute later, a brilliant golden light shot towards the heavens, as the newest creature, who would be part of his legion, was born. When the light receded, a golden living armor, which reminded him of Bidivir's former form, appeared in front of him. This living armor had 6 pointed metallic wings on its back, seemingly as sharp as a blade. Its entire body was emanating divine strength, making all the necromancers who weren't of the saint rank feel pressured. And, to know what it looks like, just search for Monster Girl Living Armor. If you see an image with a pale blue color, or green-blue color, that's the image I am talking about. Just add 6 metallic wings on its back. The golden living armor knelt down in front of Lux, like a knight who wished to be knighted by its liege. "Master, please give me a name." A voice that definitely belonged to a lady reached Lux's ears, making him wonder if living armors had genders as well. The only living armor he had met in his life was Bidivir, whom he had revived as a dragon knight in order to reunite him with his family. A name. Lux pondered for a bit. Since the living armor had the voice of a girl, he definitely couldn't give it a man's name, because that would haunt him for the rest of his life. After a few minutes, Lux finally found a suitable name for his new subordinate, who would serve by his side till he drew his last breath. "Calypso," Lux said. "From now on, your name will be Calypso." "Calypso, my every impulse bends to what is right. I am not made of iron, trust me. My soul, your beats." Divine living armor. Rating, epic. Health, 28 million. Mana, 1,575,000. 1,575,000. Strength, 10,000. Intelligence, 2,250. Vitality, 10,000. Agility, 8,600. Dexterity, 8,600. Skills, Divine Blades, epic. Ray of Light, epic. Extreme Speed, epic. Blade Storm, epic. Duel, epic. Golden Barrage, epic. Passive skills, Divine Aura, epic. Levitation, epic. Abyss Touch, epic. Unique skill, Spear of Longinus. Calypso will always be of the same rank as Lux Vonxer, but her monster rating will always be a world boss. Currently, Calypso is an Argonaut-ranked world boss. Duel, epic. Taunts multiple targets, forcing them to attack Calypso all at once. Spear of Longinus. Calypso transforms into the Spear of Longinus, allowing Lux to use her as a weapon. Extreme Speed, epic. Increases Calypso's speed in short bursts, allowing her to surpass the speed of sound. Golden Barrage, epic. Calypso can unleash countless rays of light at the same time, targeting a single or multiple enemies at once. Wow. After seeing Calypso's information, Lux was pleasantly surprised. All of her skills were of the epic rank, which were considered top tier among skills. The strongest epic skill that Lux had was Dis Gigantia, allowing him to summon a giant skeleton king, whose rank would always be a rank higher than his. This skeleton king would also have a rank of a world boss, giving Lux the ability to summon a dreadnought-ranked world boss anytime, anywhere. Naturally, Lux's trump card would become stronger the more powerful he became. Once Lux reached the saint rank, he would be able to summon a skeleton king, who would step into the ranks of a supreme. If he would be able to reach that rank, there would be very few individuals in both Elysium and Solais who would dare to antagonize him. "My grandson has come a long way," Vera thought after feeling a bit nostalgic. To think that the baby I fished out from the river would become someone so profound. I can't help but wonder if it was fate who chose me to be the one to raise him. The silver-haired lady was very happy for her grandson's growth, but she also worried for his safety at the same time. Although Lux was now a D ranker, the opponents he would face in the future would definitely be stronger than him. To find Lux, all they needed to do was spend a lot of resources, and they would be able to track his location. Right now, the Divine Army of Light had openly declared that their dealings with her grandson weren't over. Against an organization whose influence spanned a vast territory in Elysium and had a high council composed of many saints, a D ranker simply couldn't hold a candle against them. These facts made Vera feel anxious deep in her heart. If saints really did move to hunt her grandson, how could he possibly protect himself from them? Lux, who had no idea what her grandma was thinking, was currently looking at his soul book and checking Calypso's information. Gop, who shared Vera's worries, was also thinking of the same thing. The halfling wasn't afraid of facing the Divine Army of Light even if he were alone, because he had many ways to protect himself. However, Lux had just made his breakthrough and had become a newly minted D ranker. Just like Vera, Gop knew how wide the Divine Army's reach was. If they really wanted to find Lux, all they needed to do was spend a lot of resources, and they would be able to track his location. Although the floating kingdom of Karshwar Draconis was high in the sky, it was not impossible for the Divine Army of Light to reach the outer reaches and attack Lux's guild headquarters, which was just starting to build its foundation from the ground up. Fortunately, I made preparations in advance, Gop thought. Although I didn't expect that it would be used in this manner, it will certainly help Lux evade the eyes of those who wish him harm. The halfling glanced at his disciple, who had a faint smile on his face, while reading his soul book. For the time being, he decided to accompany Lux on his adventures to ensure that the Divine Army wouldn't be able to kill his one and only disciple so easily.
Thank you for watching Mystic Realms Recap. Please like, share and subscribe. Have a great day.